Okay, let me just start by saying that obviously I'm super excited by the fact that we get to see more of Shadow's life on the Ark with Maria and Gerald, and obviously the elephant in the room, Emerald, is back, and he is part of the lore. Finally, we get to visualize that moment and the things that went on in the Ark, and I'm super excited by this. Obviously, Emerald versus Shadow happened in the lore. That is incredible, and I want to see it happen, and I'm excited to see it happen. Let me just talk about more things that I'm excited about, because, you know, we want to be excited together as Sonic fans. We don't want to be downers. So let's talk about some of the things while the animation is playing. So the voice acting, Kirk Thornton's performance has improved so much now that he's been given the opportunity to do dramatic scenes. Let's go. I have preferred portrayals of the character, but he is resonating with me now. Sound design and lighting is telling a beautifully dramatic story, and this is stuff that we do not normally see in these 2D animations. Again, that is brand new stuff that we've seen from this new team that we're getting, so I love the new things they're bringing to the table. And obviously, the special effects, you're about to see it as Shadow and Emerald begin their battle, but the special effects, whenever characters clash and do things, it's basically the energy beams that come off right there is incredible. Once again, we haven't seen things like that as the wind comes off. However, I do want to talk about some things that I wished we saw. Now, I want to start as I switch here and make a comparison to a piece of media that I watch. Now, you know I like Dragon Ball, so I'm going to compare it to Dragon Ball. So there was 2 recent releases in the Dragon Ball franchise that's perfect for this situation. Dragon Ball Super Broly and Dragon Ball Super Superhero. Now, Dragon Ball Super Broly had segments that had 3D models meant to emulate the 2D drawings. Very similar to what we're seeing in Shadow Generations. Now, in that movie, Goku turns Super Saiyan Blue, and he basically, there's a whole fight sequence immediately after that, getting people hyped, and then it's all in 3D, and the fan reception was pretty not great for that one. So these comparisons that I'm showing you are basically what they could potentially do if they went over and corrected it, like the Dragon Ball franchise did in Dragon Ball Super Superhero, where it's still 3D animation, but they get 2D artists to correct more scenes. And in my opinion, I think this needs more corrections. I've tried to match up these examples from Dream Team and the Knuckles prologue to just show you that the keyframes need a little bit more love, because you can just see it. It's one of those things where I don't really need to talk too much about it, because if I do, I actually run the risk of making less sense. Just look at the clashing of the 2 characters. But this scene specifically, that clash stayed on screen way longer in that animation because they're proud of it. This scene, it was really hard to capture. They're shying away from their keyframes, and these characters look beautiful. So let them look beautiful. That's something that Sonic X doesn't struggle with, but again, because it's using 2D animations that maybe are really hard to do in that stylized way, they can't do the action. So basically what I'm asking for is Dragon Ball Super Superhero is a good blueprint for the best of both worlds kind of approach. Now, I even want to talk about how Prime even did that, right? This is a perfect example, right? Prime actually does the mouth pretty well here. It doesn't look like out of place. And even Prime does stylized stuff. So obviously this like hybrid between 2D and 3D is possible. And these keyframes, this keyframe stayed on screen for a long time. It's a strong keyframe. And that is definitely 2D design sensibilities. That is definitely exaggerated perspective. And that happens a lot in Prime. They totally bent Shadow's quills to look good for that shot. That is totally 2D design sensibilities being used in Sonic Prime. And so basically what I'm saying, I'm wondering, is this Sega's idea for a cartoon? Because, hear me out, the budget for a remaster is obviously much lower than an actual game, even a mobile game like Sonic Dream Team. So obviously the animation quality is going to be a little bit lower for the prologue animation. I now know that in hindsight. However, because they're doing cost-cutting measures, this might be them experimenting with doing something like a longer form series that's more focused on the narrative and less focused on the keyframes. So less focused on keyframes like Knuckles Prologue and Dream Team. However, I personally believe they could use a little bit more help with the keyframes. Again, just look at frames from Dragon Ball Super Broly. They are not super 2D modified. They still have that 3D look to it. I'm not being a purist here. There is a middle ground possible. And that's really my advice, because again, this is just a preview. And so this is the point in time where we can intervene as fans. And that's what this format is all about. So now it's your turn, right? The last 10 seconds. I'm going to run out of time to speak, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to make another video, a part 2 if I need to. And I want you to comment below what you thought of the animation and what you think of my thoughts. Peace.